Tabari rahimahullah was Ibn Jarir Tabari was a historian and a mufassir. And historians and mufassir generally write a lot because they go interview people and they write and write and write and write and write. And so he came to some students and says, like, I don't know who he came to them, but they come to him, but whatever the case was. And then he asked, like, do you learn tafsir? And then they first asked him how long is it? How long is it? And then he mentioned something like it was like 30,000 pages or something. And they complained and they said, like, no, you know, I'm going to spend our whole life with you. Our life is going to end before the tafsir ends. And so then he summarized his tafsir into like 3,000 pages. So the version we have now is like the summarized version, and the version is like 30 volumes. It's the summarized version, and he taught that. And then he complained. He says, like, you know, the students today have no drive to learn. He complained about the students today. So they're complaining about 30,000. We're complaining about 4. Just no, I'm just joking. So inshallah, for homework. I don't know how old he was, but you find that the ulama often wrote like an abnormally high amount that we would perceive often to be not possible. Like you know, like if you think about, like, you know, how much time they have and how much they wrote, you think, no, it's can't be possible for one person to write so much. Like many of the scholars of Dawrah, they write like some of them write like hundreds of books. Like, not even all of them have reached us. So different type of. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And it's not also like it's not like also like fiction. It's all like fact-based stuff. So it's research involved and all of those things. So I don't know how old it was. No. So it's different. I mean, if you look at Ghazali, when he read philosophy, he said he memorized 4,000 pages. Memorized. Excellent. Because you want to memorize, because you know, we study books and all of those things. So you memorize, like, you read everything, memorize everything. It's a different type of people. No. I think maybe there's a lot of elements to it. And this discussion often comes in when you speak about the emanation of hadith, because every time we discuss something, I'm like, okay, we must do another subject on that. But basically, what happens is that Western criticism of the Islamic tradition is based on Western critical principles. So when they look at history, they look at something called the historical critical method. Have you heard of it before? Historical critical method is called HCM. So HCM is basically, it has its roots in like text criticism of the Bible. What happened was that when they looked at the Bible, they looked at the when I say look at the Bible, I'm saying the modern scholars now in the last 200-300 years. When they criticized the Bible, they looked at the text of the Bible. So they look at the style of the writing, they look at the content of the writing, and then they derive historical conclusions based on the text. And therefore they come to the conclusion this couldn't have been written by the same person, this couldn't have been that era, and so on. So this gave birth to something called the historical critical method. And then one of the principles of the historical critical method, I remember the exact term, I think it's called the principle of similarity. Meaning what? That in their assumption, they assume that every society is like the current society. Every society is like the current society. Meaning what? Like, if human nature today is that they are self-centered and ego-hungry or ego-driven, then that is the same for the previous society. So when you look at the Sahaba, that's the narrative they look at it. That everything was done for the ego and the self-interest and so on. And same also when they will look at then the idea of how could people memorize. You know, like, it's not possible to memorize so many hadith and so much accuracy, you would write so much and so on. It's a principle of analogy, not similarity. The principle of analogy. So it's not really possible to compare our society to that society from a number of perspectives. A number of perspectives. Just the purity and the simplicity of those societies, and also in that time of Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, a non-literate society generally has stronger memories. A non-literate society, because writing something down is to transfer it onto a page and relieve your mind of it. You have to relieve your mind of it. But if there's nothing to write, where do you have to contain it? It's contained within your mind. Everything, because it's not contained yet, it's lost. So the notion is that you have to memorize everything. So yeah, so it's just like a different civilization, sometimes different people, what they've done and so on. Now, before I start, maybe the Quran, I watched this documentary, which you probably watched. What is a Woman? Like I finally watched it, I heard about it and stuff, and I finally watched it. Matt Walsh. Who of you have seen it? Eh? The tone. What? Okay. So let me just give you background to the video first. So for those who haven't seen it, I would recommend. Obviously, there's some profanities in there and all of those stuff. It's not like super halal. Anyway, it's like a documentary. So I'm saying it's like a documentary. It represents real life, real people. But I think it still has value. Like I would show my kids the video when they are older. Maybe the teens are shown in the video. He basically goes around the US and he speaks to a number of people, academics, doctors, ordinary people. And in the end, he's basically, he's a Christian conservative. So he believes in two genders and he believes in God and Bible. You know, that's his background basically. So he's going to all the liberals now and the progressives, and he's asking them basically, what is a woman? And it appears that no one can answer it. Not the gender studies professor, not the doctors, no one can answer him. No one can say, because he's like, what is a woman? And then the only answer they keep giving is a woman is someone who identifies as a woman. But like in basic logic, you can't have a circular definition. You can't say like a woman is someone who identifies as a woman. That's not saying a woman is a woman. It doesn't give you anything. Or if someone says, I identify as a woman, and then you must still ask what it is. Meaning what things we have to have a ta'arif. I mean, the reason I'm mentioning it, is because there's another, I think it. The reason I'm mentioning it here is just because I think that if you look at what's happening in the US, it is often an indicator what's going to happen to us. Because world trends are kind of set there because they control media and all of those things, they control thought and so on. So basically, because of this kind of cultural and intellectual imperialism, whatever's happening there is going to end up happening here. So it was actually deeply disturbing for me to watch the movie. Simply because the society has become completely like brainwashed and completely like overtaken by the fact that no one could say like a woman is someone who has certain XY chromosomes or biology. They can't say it. No one can say it. They can like they're like it's like crazy. It was like a woman's march. It's a woman's march, and it's like, what is a woman? He comes up to a bunch of like girls, and they're like, he's like, ask them, what is a woman? They all laugh because they're like, oh, that's such a difficult question. Like it's not like only on it's almost like just on a mass level. No one was prepared to say it. Because when they ask the question, they all realize that if I say that, I'm going to be discriminated and all of this, all of these. So, no, I think it's political correctness. No. So why do I mention all of that? Is that Like people will ask, like, so what's the big deal about it? So what is the big deal for you? Mm-hmm.
And 19 of them have the same science, moral scientists. They are showing talent. They're on the
how many? 19? How was it?
This person writes, I think that's strongly. He says there was 22 civilizations over the street, and 19 of them showed when they were declining.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. So they're saying that the same immoral standards which are currently there happen to those 19.
Yes. So I think just from like why it disturbed me. It disturbed me because Muslims are interested in truth. Like fundamentally, we're interested in truth and we're interested in like reality. And reality for us in Arabic would be what? Haqiqah. That there is a haqiqah, there is a reality to the world. And like even now, what's happening now is that even at the most basic level, that is being questioned. Meaning what he even speaks to this gender professor, like the professor of gender, and the professor is like visibly uncomfortable because obviously he's more liberal and stuff. And then the interviewer says, but I just want to know what the truth is. And then the professor is like, why do you keep saying truth? That word is making me feel uncomfortable. Why is the word making me uncomfortable? Because you're pushing me to give a definition that excludes other things. But that's the nature of definitions, is that they must exclude other things because then they can't be something else. And so this whole, like, from a philosophical point of view, it's disturbing. From a philosophical point of view, that a society can take such a fundamental thing, like I'm saying, this is a battery. It's not a car, it's not a cell phone, it's not a cat, it's a battery. So even like when they asked this one woman, I don't know, I think it was a gay man there, what is a woman? His response was, I can't tell you what a woman is because I'm not a woman. Only women can know what women are. It's like spewing such like crazy ideas. So he asked, he was like, so what's a cat? You're not a cat, so you can tell what a cat is. The person walks away. Because it's like almost like an illogical thing on the most foundational level. Now, sorry, you seen that? No, definitely. Yeah. Yeah, so just so online, the sister mentions here that the whole problem is that they're all relativist and there's no such thing as truth and absolute truth and a truth or the truth. And that's what disturbs me, is that idea can be spread on such a mass level that it's in the streets, it's amongst the academics, amongst the medical professionals, people of like or supposed intelligence, and it's just completely mainstream. And then if you're going to like watch like Netflix and movies and series and even children's cartoons, you're going to see these ideas being so aggressively. It's not even like hidden, or it's like just like aggressively like in your face. Like here it is. Every movie must have like this kind of formula. I think I watched some space movie or something. In space. Like even in space, there must be a dead person. Like it's just like, why just make a normal movie? So it's just like it was just disturbing for me because I was deeply concerned about how do we counter this message. And I was deeply concerned, especially for young people, because I think for older people, you kind of like know, like, okay, there's a woman, there's a man, it's like, there's other nonsense. But for younger people, like, they actually become advocates for this positions. Like Muslims will become advocates for the idea that no, there isn't the truth, there's your truth and there's my truth, and you can do what you feel like. You feel like this. I mean, if this one person identifies as a trans wolf, like as a person who has now transitioned into a wolf, like as. And then the one person even mentions some of the kids identify as cats and they come to class and they must meow. And the teacher can't say anything because they identify as a cat. Like, it is like, for us it might feel like a joke, but I'm saying it's like seriously concerning for me, because if you're growing up with such messaging and it's such madness, how do we counter that? Because we're countering a narrative which is everywhere. It's on social media, it's in the series, it's in the movies, it's everywhere. It's all the time. It's been push. You can maybe make a little video, and there is some like obviously conservatives in America doing that and stuff. But it appears that the battle's almost like being lost. And in South Africa also, South Africa is like very like liberal in terms of like officially in terms of constitutionally and free speech and all of those things. So we don't even have like a really like a conservative lobby here, except for Africa Forum and the MJC. There's like very few. I mean, there's like two strange bedfellows that had to come together. But I mean, those are probably like the last religious communities, because the Afrikaners are kind of very conservative still in their Christianity and so on, and the Muslims are fairly kind of principled. These are kind of the last two people that saying like, you're speaking nonsense and it's our belief. But the mainstream narrative is going to be against us. So the idea that all Muslims are here for in this world is identification of truth and to live the truth. There's truth like in everything. Like everything has like a definition, a purpose, a position. It's identification of truth. What is al-haq? And obviously al-haq is the name of Allah. Identification of truth and live that truth. Like our whole worldview is completely different, because we are saying there is only one truth, the truth. Everything has a specific aspect of truth. Meaning what? That if I am a slave, then I am the creation of Allah, there is a creator. There's a truth to that. There is a male, a dhakar or untha. There's a truth to that. It's like, what I mean? There's just like, it's like a very definitive deed. Like things are certain and things are like essentialist and so on. And now you come with this very like definitive, certain, sure deed into a world where everything is being questioned. Everything is being questioned. I mean, it became so ludicrous, like watching it, like people's mental state, that in the interview asked the one person, like, is anything real? And then the person, I don't know. She's like, is conversation real? And the person, I'm not sure, maybe, is it real? Like, what are you talking about? You're like two people talking, of course you're real. Like in which world now are we entering into the world of like, where nothing can be said definitively? It's not even the fact that we are in a class. Are we in a class now? Maybe not. Maybe this is a Mizan. I don't know. Could be a Clifton. I don't know. Maybe you're not. Maybe this is your Musenberg, my Manfi Masjid. You know what I mean? Like where are we heading with this? And when you remove that, you remove all authority. And that's the problem. You remove all authority, because no one has authority to even tell you a cat is a cat and a dog is a dog. You can't even have authority on the material thing. We're still with the unseen God that's telling you what to do. And these are the ideas that are going to confront us. And it was just like for me, it was like very worrying, because like a young person, like it seems appealing, this illogical things. It seems like very like woke and very like you're not the dinosaur, because you come into the new world with new ideas, the fresh ideas and so on. And you find that all your celebrities, all your politicians are all puppeting the same thing. So it like seems like, okay, no, we with the right crowd. No. What do you gain from it? You gain the idea of complete freedom. The notion of complete freedom. Yeah, there are those lobbies and so on. Yeah. So I want to discuss quickly the arguments, the arguments against, and why I think even the arguments are problematic. So the arguments that those who are pro like binary gender, like Matt Walsh and that lobby, their argument is what? Those who argue against multiple genders and fluidity, which arguments are they saying that are they using to say that there are two genders? They're using biological proofs and say XY chromosomes, all of those things. And why are they countering this? Why are they countering this? They're saying because when you step away from biological truths, you produce social harm. Meaning what? When people are going to get into this confusion, they're going to change their bodies into with hormonally and all of those things, they're going to undergo psychological harm. The difficulty with that argument for me is that now my study versus your study. My study shows the suicide rate of trans people are 60%. No, but there's another study that says this. No, so they're actually happier if the right conditions are there. So now you become my study, your study, my study, your study. And in the end, you're going to lose the battle. Why? Because even the studies themselves, there's politics at the university. That even the studies themselves are going to become more and more skewed towards the other side, basically. And
hello.
So when it comes to a Muslim, so I'm using So when it comes to a Muslim, why do we say it? We say it based on the revelation. Allah created Dhakar and Untha. And we say it on Walaysa Dhakrika Untha. A woman is not like we say it based on the revelation. Whether it's going to make it more, you're going to be happier if you match the dress. That's irrelevant to us because revelation, Prophet says that a man mustn't dress like a woman, a woman mustn't dress like a man. So meaning what do we have like instructions that tell us statements of truth and statements of behavior. Statements of truth, khabars, and then behavior, commands and prohibitions. And that is actually where we derive. We don't actually, the study that someone is more depressed, they do this, or they have high drug abuse, or this, or they come in, I mean, like, that's almost secondary for us. So I'm saying sometimes is that, like, with those conservative Christians, I feel sometimes they must come out and say, this, I think it's a married female because God made a married female. They mustn't like hide it with now, like, allergy, because it's a game that goes back and forth all the time. And so if you're going to be a Muslim, you're going to go out. Don't always get caught in that, yes, but if you transition to a female, you're going to get more depression because the study said this, and study this, and study this. You simply say, I'm a Muslim, I've been in revelation. My Lord told me this. I respect your position, but I think you're wrong. I think I'm right. You know what I mean? Like, in the end, that is almost like your fallback. Not your fallback, that's like your foundation. And then when you're trying to add all of these sociological arguments, you're trying to just pad it and make it more palatable. But in the end, we just like, Allah told me to live, and Allah told me a man gets married to a woman. That's, I'm not, okay, now you speak about, I'm going to say like, oh, statistically, if you grow up in a male and female father and mother, you're going to be happy in the child. Like, we don't do it for statistics, like for sociological reasons. Because whatever study comes out and shows that gay parents produce happy children. And then what happened to your argument then? The argument is gone. So we're not going to pin our conclusions or our ideas on the social science. Because social science himself was also biased. So this is my other reflection with regard to the documentary when you watch it. Be careful of the arguments. The arguments are useful in terms of like the anti-now. I'm saying like almost like it's our side, we like the male-female side. But even their arguments for us is just sociological. And in the end, they're limited. In the end, we follow Allah and Allah decides how we live. And Allah instructs us with
program is on this morning. Parker's program is on this morning.
Yeah. So anyway, so those are my reflections with regard to it. I would suggest you watch it, and I suggest that. And the last thing I mentioned is that they go to the, I think it's the Maasai tribe, I think in Kenya. So they go to like a proper African tribe. And then the guy like asked him, so what's a woman? And they're like very like straight, because they're like, oh man, no, the man must provide, and it's not the man, he doesn't provide. The woman must stay at home. And they're like, still don't worry about it. For them, it's like very clear. And then you ask them, like, do you have any men who want to be like women? And they start laughing, like, oh my God. What? It doesn't exist here. You know, like, it's like outside of frame of reference. What are you talking about? But what the interesting thing is that even though that tribe was the most outspoken, why? They didn't only define two genders. They specifically spoke about gender roles. But no one criticized them. Why? It's not politically correct to criticize a black African tribe in Africa, a black tribe in Africa. You know, because like the world people can't just criticize an African tribe that's very unpolitically correct. Even though they were the most correct, they were like, no, men, women, we do this, they do that, no one is the same, they live the same. It was interesting, almost like the hypocrisy of the lack of response to it. But just because of that, we can't respond. No, but they won't say it. They won't say it. They won't say it. They won't say it. And that's no point. They won't say it. No. Anyway, so just some reflections on it. In terms of what I think the solution is, I think obviously we must teach. Muhammad is having a class. I'll send you the details on Tuesday. Show liberalism and the arguments against it. Waterloo Masjid. I'll send you the poster. I'll encourage you to attend. I'll be attending as well, inshallah. I think the discussion must start happening. So Muhammad Khan, Tuesday nights at Waterloo Masjid on liberalism. It's a book he's reading and he's going to start talking about it, inshallah. Yeah.
Influences. They identify with some of the narratives of feminism, and that's been the start having these conversations and online, which is dangerous with regards to the aqidah,
yes.
Because it becoming skewed in the sense that they want to be in full hijab, which many, if you're not able to understand the philosophy and you're just a normal hijabi, listen, you would, if somebody identifies as an atheist and a Muslim won't even listen to that. But if you see somebody in hijab and they're talking and you're listening and it's appealing to your emotional side and it's appealing and maybe you've seen one or two cases like that, then they throw the baby out with the bottle.
Yes,
you know,
yes.
It's like,
and I think that's what I'm concerned about is that these just for our students and sisters were speaking about Muslim feminists and so on, which is like an whole other topic. But just in general terms, the general difficulty is that when Muslims start identifying with these ideas that are contrary to our faith, whether it's like a fluidity of genders or open sexual orientation or relativism or whatever it is, any of these things, and then they start absorbing it into the faith. Almost like saying like this, a Muslim can be, this and this, and that's effectively where we're going often with these things, and that's part of the confusion. And the way out of confusion is basically knowledge. Knowledge and I think good company. So like proper authentic knowledge, Qurans and proper scholarship and just good company. Because good company has good company is like a psychological argument. Meaning what? There's like the mental argument of like ilm and all of those things, and there's good company which like argues with your heart. You get someone pious and like I feel good with this person, and there's like because people are beyond rational. People are actually not very, very rational generally. So rational arguments also have their limitations, and I think just good company, good society, and so on. Because also like part of my concern is that obviously I speak to like teacher friends and so on, is that you don't also want to portray yourself as anti everything. Because then your message is all just anti, and then like, okay, It doesn't like sound very like appealing. It seems like, because obviously I have like da'wah hikmah. So in a sense, if you think of it as a cup, you can't just say everything in the cup is wrong. Okay, you believe this anti, and you have an empty cup. You also have to like fill the cup with like positivity and truth and goodness. So there's the idea also that you have to have like a positive da'wah. At the same time, obviously preventing the haram, but you can't only just be, because the world is negative, you can't just be anti-negative all the time. You also have to just be like pro-truth in a sense, like, like what is the truth, and fill it with positivity and so on. So, those are some of my thoughts, but I think it's just something of concern. No.
And two incidences in my house of my daughter's in university and my son is on high school. With my daughter, she had to do a critique on patriarchy. So how do you already start with that, with a critique on patriarchy? And then my son, he had to do it was a short story research, and it's about the female role in the 1890s and how this author has broken the ceiling of gender roles, and I'm thinking, and it's almost like an attack on both sides of how does a children navigate through this? Because they are being told to criticize the patriarchal society. Like I told my daughter, I can give you various reasons why I'm pro patriarchy. And it's not, we do it logical. I'm telling her, I don't know how you're going to do your essay, but that I'm talking pro.
I think that the problem that I have sometimes with those approaches, even like what you're saying, I'm pro patriarchy, is that these terms are defined outside of faith. Feminism, patriarchy, and these terms come with baggage. And I never say things like Islam is patriarchal and Islam is this and anti-feminist or that. Islam is what it is. It has aqidah, it has ahkam. It's very problematic when we take a label from outside and say like this is the, because a label, what's a label mean? It means different things to different people, and it's like negative and all of this stuff. So it's like, for me, I try to at all times say, what is the, because a label itself, if it's not universally defined, it doesn't have proper meaning. When I say, for example, a keys, everybody understands what a key is because of the universal definition. When I say patriarchy, do we mean like the man beating up his wife? For some people, that's patriarchy, abuse of power relations. Like, so if we don't have a universal definition of something, how can I bring that into something which is very clearly defined? Like Islam is like super defined. The ahkam and the fiqh and it's like to its teeth defined. So I'm very wary of just bringing kind of those almost like I think we need to like generate our own terms and say this is the Islamic term, and okay, we respect you to use that term, but we don't use that term. So I actually had a term on talking myself in Patriarch. I think it's on YouTube, where I spoke about this, and I spoke about that we have to basically don't come with your terms. Describe Islam as it is. And whatever term you think that is, like even like is Islam capitalist, is socialist, but no, it's social capital. What does these things mean? Just tell me what Islam says. Islam says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You tell me that is what Islam, and that is the Islamic version of our economics or our Islamic version of family law. I don't want to put a label on it. This is the ahkam of family law. This is how families operate. This is how nikahs operate. Don't bring your other labels onto it because you're trying to hijack my discourse. And that's how they're gonna start getting into it. But we follow the ahkam as they are, and the beliefs as they are, and we find them perfect as they are, and beautiful and functional, and they make sense, and they manifest, and they're fair, and they're just, and they're for our best interest. And so that's what I'm saying. Sometimes like it's hard to navigate these spaces like that. And I think that other people placing terms onto your faith is a form of them trying to establish control of you. Because you want to box me now as patriarchal. You want to box me now is whatever this, that. Don't box me. I am what I am. You're what I am. You can read about it. No. You want to mention something? Oh, so, okay. Anyway.